If you've ever wanted to watch a show that is equally as heartbreaking as it is full of joy and life, then I have the show for you. Have you ever heard of Falsettos? From its striking opening number to its breathtaking finale, Falsettos manages to hold its viewer in, capturing them into the character's dysfunctional and crumbling world. If you know anything about me, you'll know that I like falsettos. For one, my name is Marvin, like the main character. If you see my TikTok, there are falsettos posts. If you see my Instagram, there are falsettos posts. If you see my Pinterest and my Tumblr, there have been and there will be falsettos posts. I have seen falsettos a total of 107 times, meaning that if we round down, I have seen falsettos for a total of 10 days. Since October 4th, 2023. I have a Falsettos phone case, a bunch of Falsettos stickers, I have a Whizzer shirt, a Marvin shirt, and a Mendel cardigan. I wrote a 13-page paper that was supposed to be 2 on how Marvin shows depression in the Marvin trilogy. I also spent a total of $240 on tickets so that I could see Andrew Rannells and Christian Borle live, and I did get to meet Christian Borle because I'm so cool like that. I'm just bragging at this point. I love him. Suffice it to say, falsettos is my thing. My theater teacher and I were talking about cabaret, which I'm also very, very abnormal about. And she said she was relieved to hear I knew other shows than falsettos. So, if you couldn't tell, I'm going to be talking about falsettos in its entirety, and how it uses music and storytelling to create the most memorable piece of theater I have ever watched. So, what is falsettos? Falsettos is, drumroll please, the second 2 acts of a trilogy of 1-act musicals. The Marvin trilogy and other fantastic shows, such as the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee and A New Brain, were written by William Finn. William Finn was born on February 28, 1952, in Natick, Massachusetts. He is Jewish and was raised in conservative Judaism, also known as Masorti Judaism. Please let me know if I'm saying that wrong, which is a sect of Judaism defined as, quote, traditional Judaism for modern Jews, celebrating the diversity of the contemporary Jewish community, with a steadfast commitment to integrating a traditional Judaism with modern values, and maintaining traditional observance while being fully inclusive and intellectually open-minded, end quote. And yes, if you go to the source, you'll see I chopped it up a little bit, but it's the only way that I could understand what I was actually writing down, and I'm pretty sure it means the same thing, so if it doesn't, please let me know. Finn is often an autobiographical writer. He writes his own lyrics based off of his own truth and experiences. His plays often discuss queer and Jewish experiences in contemporary America, as well as mixing in themes of family, belonging, sickness, healing, and loss. The World of Falsettos was revealed on February 21st, 1979, when In Trousers was premiering at the Playwrights Horizons in New York City. After a few edits, it opened off-Broadway on March 26, 1985, at the Promenade Theater. In Trousers, the first of the 3 acts, centers on the women in Marvin's life, his wife, his teacher, and his high school sweetheart. The show comically explores Marvin's struggle to understand his own sexuality. God bless you, Concord. I love your blurbs. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. In Trousers feels as though it's a separate world to Falsettos, which makes sense from the lack of Jason and Whizzer, pivotal people in Marvin's life. Falsettos itself opened on Broadway on April 29, 1992 at the John Golden Theater. Falsettos is a little special in many ways, one of which involves a mystery guest. Introducing Mr. James Lapine. Like the Into the Woods guy, or the Sunday in the Park with George guy. You're gonna ignore the fact I'm listing famous Sondheim shows. If you look at them, he worked on them, and they're famous shows I know he was in. It makes things simpler, yada yada yada. So Lapine wrote the book with Finn, and Finn wrote the music and lyrics. Since its release, it's been performed on many theaters, including the Walter Kerr Theater in the 2016 revival, and on smaller stages, such as the Maryland Theater Collective. Seriously, check out the Maryland Theater Collective. They're so cool, and the people who played Marvin and Whizzer were so sweet and lovely and kind, and even came to my boyfriend, my friend, and my opening night after we came to their show 4 times, like normal people. The show themselves gave us comp tickets for being, quote, amazing audience members, so they're pretty sick. We live an hour away from this theater, but back to Falsettos. At its core, Falsettos is a show revolving around love, family, and the complexities of human relationships, all set against the set of tragedy and the spotlight of hope. March of the Falsettos, the first act of Falsettos, shows Marvin trying to force his boyfriend Whizzer, his ex-wife Trina, and their 10-year-old son Jason into a
tight-knit family.
When that fails, Marvin leaves Trina for Whizzer, while Mendel Weisenbachfeld, yes, that's his last name, Marvin's psychiatrist, falls in love with and marries Trina. By the time March of the Falsettos ends, Marvin has lost Whizzer as well as Trina. However, during the closing song, he attempts to make amends with Jason. In the second act, Falsetto Land, Whizzer reappears in Marvin's life while he organizes Jason's bar mitzvah with Trina and Mendel. Falsetto Land takes place 2 years after March of the Falsettos. In the past 2 years, Marvin has made 2 new friends within his life, Charlotte and Cordelia. However, Marvin's happiness is only temporary. Shortly after, Whizzer becomes sick with an unknown illness, masterfully showing the fear and unknowingness of the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. By the end of the performance, Jason has had a bar mitzvah, Mendel and Trina are in a healthy relationship, Marvin has gained and kept his 2 friends, Cordelia and Charlotte, but he has lost the most important part of his life, Whizzer Brown. There are 7 characters in Falsettos, meaning that now you have to listen to me rapid fire through all 7 of them. Starting with Marvin. Marvin is the main character in Falsettos. Because of his complexity, Marvin frequently has trouble finding a balance between his need for personal independence and his desire for a tight-knit family. Next, Whizzer. Whizzer is a charming and confident man. In contrast to Marvin's fears, Whizzer displays confidence and independence when he enters Marvin's life. Whizzer and Marvin's relationship is passionate but turbulent, alternating between deep affection and strong conflict. Trina. Trina is a strong and complex character. Her relationship with Marvin's psychiatrist Mendel helps her gradually regain strength and stability after being hurt by Marvin's departure. Trina's journey includes redefining her identity, adjusting to her new life, and supporting her son, Jason. Next up, Mendel. Mendel brings understanding and humor to Marvin and Trina's situation, serving as a stabilizing force in the fractured family. Mendel is a kind and encouraging person who helps Trina and Jason cope with their emotions. Mendel's personal involvement with Trina demonstrates his genuine concern and affection for his new family, despite his professional responsibilities. Next, Jason. Jason is adjusting to the complicated circumstances of his parents' divorce and his father's relationship with Whizzer. Jason's persona honestly perfectly captures the naivety and perplexity of a child who is in the center of adult disputes. The main plot point of the second act is his impending bar mitzvah, which symbolizes his transition from childhood to adolescence. Charlotte. Charlotte is a doctor who worked extensively in the early stages of the AIDS epidemic. She specifically works as a medical internist. Charlotte is a kind and devoted person. She provides Whizzer with the medical care he needs while providing the others with the emotional support that they need. And finally, Cordelia. Cordelia is a
sexy caterer who is trying to expand.
Brings warmth and humor to the story. Her persona adds levity and encouragement, while her charm and wit balance out the darker moments. In the midst of the chaos, Cordelia and Charlotte's relationship provides solace and normalcy through their loving and dependable partnership. You cannot talk about Falsettos without talking about its music. You know how I said Falsettos was special in a lot of ways? It's music. Trust me. Not only is this musical technically an opera, but the musical style is so distinctive and truly representative of the music of William Finn. I absolutely adore the vocals and performance from the original revival cast, but oh my god, you are not ready to hear the instrumentals from the original Broadway cast. Real quick, I just want to say how much I love the original Broadway cast. Chip Zien, Michael Rupert, Barbara Walsh, I absolutely adore them. They are national treasures. The show opens with one of 2 satirical songs in the show, 4 Jews in a Room Bitching, the other satirical song being March of the Falsettos. 4 Jews is heavily focused on Jewish stereotypes.
4 Jews in a room bitching. 4 Jews in a room plot a crime.
A song depicting and mocking Jewish stereotypes would be incomplete without a reference to the scheming Jew.
I'm bitching, he's bitching, they're bitching, we're bitching, bitch, 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 bitch. Funny, 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 bitch, 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 all the time.
Jews are known in texts and media for 3 things: neuroses, comedy, and suffering, which are usually combined.
We crossed the desert, running for our lives, fleeing from the Pharaoh, who was up to no good. Now we're at the Red Sea, Pharaoh is behind us, wanting us extincted.
The men are referencing the Passover story. Moses led the Jews from Egypt, where they were slaves. They then wandered the desert for 40 years.
And then the Red Sea split before us.
The parting of the Red Sea is one of the most well-known miracles in the Passover story. As the Jews fled, the Pharaoh abandoned his promise to free them and pursued them instead. The Jews appeared doomed, trapped between the Red Sea and an army until Moses lifted his staff and the waters of the Red Sea parted. The Egyptians pursued them, but they were caught in the sea bank. After the Jews crossed, the waters returned to drown the Egyptians.
I'm nauseous. I'm nauseous.
I'm simple.
I'm Jewish.
Jason says, "I'm simple." However, this could be another Passover reference. The Haggadah, the Passover prayer book, mentions the 4 children. The third child that's mentioned is the simple child, and Jason, the child in this situation, describes himself as simple as the third character to talk in the sequence. So, not only is it an intriguing musical style, an opera, but it also has religious references. What more could your guy want? But just you wait for it. There are themes and motifs. The next song that in the chronological order of the music that really stands out to me is The Thrill of First Love. I want you to appreciate some of the vocals from the revival before I show you the real deal.
Everything he owns is vile. Marvin doesn't care a whit. Marvin doesn't share my devotion to style. Men from France can cancel a debt. Men in cufflinks make me forget my name. I intend to upset. What's your deal? This regrettable game. Send me flowers.
Mention is made.
Make them roses.
Attention is paid in full.
See how quickly he sours.
When he pushes, I pull.
Hang up your clothes, Marvin. Breeding shows, Marvin.
I was rich, he was horny.
We fit like a glove.
Close your eyes, wizard.
Passion dies, but I'd kill for that thrill of first.
Ow.
Love.
Passion dies. Passion dies.
I would kill for that thrill of
I would
first
kill
love.
for that thrill of
I would
first
kill for that
love.
thrill of
I would
first
kill
love.
for that thrill. I would kill for that thrill of first
Love. Love. Love.
Okay, you think you might be ready, but just you wait. Let me introduce you to the interlude from the original Broadway cast. Are you starting to see why I love this show? It's just absolutely fantastic. There's not a single song in this show that I refuse to listen to, except for one. If you know, you know. And that's not even because it's a bad song. The music in Falsettos is so special. Because the show is an opera, the songs need to be much more plot and character heavy, making the music so much more impressive. Songs such as The Games I Play, What More Can I Say, and Holding to the Ground would not have the impact they have on me if it weren't for the incredible world building within the music. Some of the characters even have their own little musical motifs. I love motifs! Jason has his little
My father says that love. My father says that love.
Marvin has his
tight-knit family, tight-knit family.
and Trina has her
Everything he wanted, it's time I put it all together. The date was set, my father let me marry, I married mine. Everything he wanted, it's time I put it all together. Our hands were tied, my father cried, you'll marry, we married.
This show is able to weave together all of the characters into the music so that no part can remain separate, and it succeeds at that. The amount of times I've been going to work, For context, I have an hour and 20-minute commute, so I listen to a lot of music. And What Would I Do has started playing, and I've genuinely started sobbing and shaking on the metro, where at the time I shrieked because I couldn't handle the second act at that moment. This show's music is to blame for moments like these. Songs like I'm Breaking Down and What Would I Do are honestly the best examples of how the music and lyrics delve into the characters' inner worlds, revealing their struggles, hopes, and transformations. I just want to quickly talk about Finn's skill. His ability to combine pathos and humor is truly highlighted in the way he shifts between humorous and lighthearted songs and serious and deeply moving ones. I envy how beautiful his harmony and melodies are and how they connect to each character's interactions. I write plays, and I've been trying for years to write a musical, and I really struggle with it, if you can't tell. But there's also diversity within the music. While some songs have the same components, each song is different. There's the satirical and vaudevillian Four Jews in a Room Bitching, yet in the same show there's the heartbreaking and ballad-like The Games I Play. The musical style of Falsettos plays a significant role in its success and impact. William Finn's intricate compositions and clever, heartfelt lyrics combine to create an emotionally rich and resonant experience as the viewer. The use of motifs, an eclectic blend of genres, and a focus on character-driven songs all contribute to Falsetto's distinct and alluring sound, which sets it apart from the world of musical theater. And, oh my god, the Set of Falsettos is fantastic. I'm mainly going to be talking about the 2016 revival set, as it's honestly my favorite theater set design ever. Finn's shows have a history of simpler sets, and honestly, within the set's simplicity, the Set of Falsettos communicates the story in a way like no other. The set of the original Broadway production of Falsettos included furniture and doors to show the setting, yet the Broadway's revival set had a very noticeable difference, designed by Tony Award winner David Rockwell. There are only two sets in the 2016 revival of Falsettos. The first is by far the most well-known, the Cube. The Cube is a collection of different set pieces, some squares, some more reminiscent of chairs, and some making other shapes. The plain gray blocks don't look like anything special. However, they all come together to make this huge, unignored symbol. Actors are constantly moving the blocks and destroying the cube to suit their needs, or disassembling old spaces to create new ones. Because the blocks are constantly moving, there are a few times when the set is consistently the same. When stacked together, the blocks function as office chairs, couches, kitchen counters, living rooms, tables, and even doorways. The show is dynamic, with the audience imagining the carefully placed blocks as rooms or furniture. A good example of that is the song Making a Home. As the characters sing about the life they hope for and the home they are making in front of our eyes, the actors are making a home. They use the blocks to form a couch, a table, a doorway, using a mix of props, lyrics, and acting to show the viewer where the set is. There are very few props throughout the show overall, however. Props used include bowls to represent a kitchen and potted plants to create a living room. But you may be thinking, Marvin, you mentioned 2 sets. Good job noticing, there are 2 sets! Between the songs Holding to the Ground and Jason's Bar Mitzvah, the cube is taken off stage, being replaced with a hospital room. To replace such a simple set was a very distinct choice. The cube and its blocks could have been used to create a hospital, but it was changed for a reason. Theater set design is frequently rewarded for its ornate and intricate details. Past Tony Award winners for scenic design include the glaring lights and eyes in Cabaret's Kit Kat Club, the captivating and magical Moulin Rouge, and Les Mis' iconic barricade in French City Street. However, what matters most in good scenic design is not the grandness or the detail work. What matters is how effectively the design supports the story. David Rockwell understood this all too well while he was designing the set for the revival of Falsettos. He effectively tells the story of Marvin, Trina, Jason, Whizzer, and Mendel and their ever-changing tight-knit family by using a minimalist and abstract set with touches of realism at times. A big question in the field of scenic design is, what are the advantages of abstract versus realism, and how do they tell a compelling story? Rockwell's scenic design combines these two concepts. Falsettos begins with an abstract set to support fourth wall breaks, fast transitions, and the story of an ever-changing emotional landscape, before shifting to a highly realistic set to reflect the real issues of disease and death that affect the characters within the second act. The falsetto set is an excellent representation of the show, visually supporting the story. The plot revolves around a constantly shifting family with complex relationships that fall apart and reassemble in unexpected ways. In this way, the set becomes an extension of the story itself. It's abstract, which makes the story's message more powerful and the characters stand out against the plain gray background. The sparse set dressings contrast with the gray blocks, making the use of props more engaging and drawing the audience into the show. The previously used abstract set contributed to the idea that nothing is real. This show has constant fourth wall breaks and set changes are a part of the choreography. The couches are blocks, and the acting is simply that, acting. However, the introduction of the hospital bed shocks the audience into reality. It is no longer fake, made of blocks and a few decorations, but rather something constantly moving and clearly invented. The The hospital bed makes it real. Death, pain, and illness are all real and affect people all over the world. The change of the sets effectively reminds the audience that although this is a play, it also reflects reality and affects real people. The set creates a beautiful environment of movement and status, contrasting each other while working in harmony to embrace and support the show's themes. And I need to say this, but I absolutely adore the costumes in this revival as well. There isn't much symbolism behind the costumes, at least that I could find, but I still wanted to talk about them real quick. Not only are they stunning and accurate to what people wore in the late 70s and early 80s in New York City, but the specific colors of the costumes are truly reminiscent of what the screens of the 70s showed. Falsettos is a story about the evolving nature of family. The character's unconventional family structure challenges traditional norms while emphasizing the fluidity of love and relationships. Marvin's journey demonstrates that societal conventions do not define family, but rather the love and support shared by its members. The struggle for acceptance and identity is a central theme in Falsettos. Each character struggles with their sense of self and position within the family structure. Marvin struggles with his identity as both a gay man and a father, while Trina is dealing with her own insecurities and the challenges of moving on. Whizzer confronts the fragility of his life and the realities of living with AIDS. Jason deals with the challenges of growing up in a non-traditional family. Another important theme is the impact of the AIDS epidemic on the queer community. Falsetto Land, set in the early 80s, confronts the harsh realities of the epidemic head-on. Whizzer's illness adds a strong sense of urgency and vulnerability to the story. The musical depicts the fear, prejudice, and loss felt during this time, while also highlighting the strength and resilience of those affected. Falsettos also explores the themes of love in various forms. Romantic love, familial love, and self-love are all interwoven throughout the story. Despite its ups and downs, Marvin and Whizzer's relationship exemplifies true, enduring love. Trina and Mendel's marriage demonstrates the possibility of finding love again, and Cordelia and Charlotte are just the most healthy relationship there is in this show. Throughout, the characters come to love and accept themselves and one another, flaws and all. The message of Falsettos is ultimately about acceptance, resilience, and the value of a chosen family. It encourages us to broaden our understanding of what a family can be. It urges us to recognize the power of love and the effect of others in overcoming obstacles. The musical reminds us that, despite life's uncertainties and challenges, the relationships we form with others can provide the strength and support we need to persevere. Falsettos is still a powerful and relevant work just over 32 years after its Broadway opening. Falsettos is appealing to audiences for its honest description of human relationships and the enduring spirit of love. Its themes encourage us to embrace our true selves and treasure the families we build, no matter how different they are. The world that surrounds the theater has such an impact on how the show is perceived. I'm going to be looking at the world surrounding Falsettos during the different times of the productions, from different perspectives of themes in the show. When the curtain fell in April 1992, audiences were transported back by more than a decade to 1979 and 1981, when even medical professionals, such as Dr. Charlotte, were baffled by the AIDS epidemic. By the 1990s, the audience had a better understanding of Whizzer's illness than the characters. By the time Falsettos debuted, many famous people had already died from the autoimmune disease. At the end of 1992, 254,147 cases of AIDS had been reported in the United States, with 194,476 deaths. After the revival had closed in January of 2017, Michael Friedman, at age 41, a composer and lyricist, died unexpectedly on September 9, 2017, shocking the theater world. Friedman, best known for Broadway's Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson, died of AIDS 9 weeks after being diagnosed with HIV. In 2017, there were 38,739 HIV diagnoses in the United States. Approximately 14% of the estimated 1.1 million HIV-positive people in the United States are unaware that they have the virus. In 2019, the second successful HIV treatment with stem cell replacement was reported, but as medical journals and science reporters have noted, it is not a cure. As we watch the show now, there is still a darkness surrounding the AIDS epidemic and how it affects the people in today's world. Family values were a part of the early 1990s culture wars and a buzzword at the Republican convention in August 1992. In his convention speech, candidate Pat Buchanan used someone's praise of the Clinton-Gore campaign as
Bill Clinton and Al Gore represent the most pro-lesbian and pro-gay ticket in history, and so they do,
to criticize it for the same reason. President George Bush Sr. backed away from such conservative messaging during his re-election campaign. White House speechwriters were instructed to link family values to childcare and education rather than people's personal lives and marriages. Marvin, Whizzer, Charlotte, and Cordelia would not have been able to get married during the time that the show was first open. But when it returned to the stage in 2016, just over a year after same-sex marriage was legalized, it truly changes the way you look at it and changes how you feel about the fact that Marvin and Whizzer aren't going to get married, and they never will. 2 Pulitzer Prize-winning works were on stage at the same time as Falsettos in 1992. Lost in Yonkers, written by Neil Simon, is about 2 boys and their extended imperfect family in 1942. The play ran on Broadway from February 21, 1991 to January 3, 1993. Similar to Falsetto's 2-part origins, playwright Tony Kushner's Angels in America, a gay fantasia on national themes, consisted of 2 plays, Millennium Approaches and Perestroika, performed in repertory, beginning with previews on April 13, 1993, and ending on December 4, 1994. Which, fun fact, Christian Borle was also in a production of Angels in America. The revival of Falsettos opened in previews on September 29, 2016, following the musical Fun Home, which closed on September 10th. Based on the graphic novel memoir of a woman reflecting her childhood and sexual awakening, the Broadway production was the first to feature a lesbian protagonist, and guess what? She also had a gay father, just like Jason. In the 1990s, America was watching network TV comedies, Roseanne and Married with Children, which abandoned the cookie-cutter template of perfect families led by strong father figures that had previously been recommended by 7 out of 10 advisors. Today, with hits like Modern Family portraying gay fathers, another cool thing is that Jesse Tyler Ferguson, who played Mitch in Modern Family, also played Leaf Coneybear in 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. Big Love, Mormon Polygamy, and Transparent, a transgender father, representation of diverse families has not only blossomed, but has grown into a garden of material on television. This is going to be a little bit different conversation of reaction. I'm not going to be talking about a theme, I'm going to be talking about one specific person's reaction. As I mentioned before, I saw the Maryland Theater Collective's production of Falsettos 4 times. The first time I went, I was with my mom. And if you know my mom, you'll know that she's the guy who didn't like musicals. You see what I did there? That's my boyfriend and my nickname for her. She listens to me talk about the musicals I like, but very often when I try to show her a musical, it doesn't work. She's watched a total of 5 musicals with me. I've tried to get her to watch more than 20, and the only one she could see herself watching again was Cabaret, though they were different productions. I've been talking to her about this project as I worked on it, and asked her if she'd be okay with telling me what she thought so I could include it in the script. So here are her thoughts on Falsettos from someone who doesn't like musicals. Definitely moving, surprisingly catchy. This musical trilogy covers important historical issues for the LGBTQ+ community and broader society in a touching way. As well, it portrays non-traditional families with sensitivity and respect. For a little bit of context, her reaction to this meant the world to me. Not only am I a queer transgender person, but I am also a queer transgender person living with a non-traditional family. The connections that my mother and I have made to March of the Falsettos as representation for what our family used to feel like have truly been eye-opening to me, and I'm forever grateful that I got to share this show with her in such a special way. So, hi Mom, you're watching this, and I want to say thank you for loving what I love, and I love you so much. Falsettos has been nominated for a total of 16 awards, including the Tony Awards, the Drama Desk Awards, and the Theatre World Award. The original production was nominated for a total of 8 Tony Awards. The production won Best Book of a Musical and Best Original Score, music and/or lyrics written for theater, while also being nominated for Best Direction and Best Musical. The actors nominated included Michael Rupert for Best Performance by an Actor in a Leading Role in a Musical, Jonathan Kaplan for Best Performance by an Actor in a Featured Role in a Musical, and Barbara Walsh for Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role in a Musical. The revival was nominated for 1 Tony Award, Best Revival of a Musical, while 4 of the actors were nominated for Tonys. Christian Borle was nominated for Best Performance by an Actor in a Leading Role of a Musical. Andrew Rannells and Brandon Uranowitz were nominated for Best Performance by an Actor in a Featured Role in a Musical, and Stephanie J. Block was nominated for Best Performance by an Actress in a Featured Role in a Musical. Falsettos expertly weaves together the evolution of family, the struggle for acceptance and identity, the impact of the AIDS crisis, and the various forms of love, romantic, familial, and self-love, into the story. The musical also emphasizes the importance of acceptance, resilience, and the value of chosen family, encouraging audiences to broaden their definitions of what constitutes as a family. Falsettos depicts the fear, confusion, and loss connected to the AIDS epidemic, while also demonstrating the strength and resilience of those affected. The characters' journeys reflect their personal development and acceptance of their identities and relationships, sending a strong message about the enduring spirit of love and human connection. And that's that. Those are the complexities and connections, and I hope that now you better understand falsettos. My next video is likely either going to be about Cabaret, specifically the 2021 London original cast, or Bye Bye Birdie, with a comparison of the movie and the stage production. Though if I do Cabaret next, I'm doing Bye Bye Birdie after, and vice versa. If you have any other shows you'd like me to look into, please let me know and I'll consider them. Here are my sources. They are listed in the order that they were used throughout the video, and throughout the video when the source is used. The link has been pasted in the top left corner of the screen while I am talking about the information that I got from the source. And thank you again for watching.